Oh man, I always knew.
Yeah.
I always knew. Kids played house, right?
Yeah.
I never had to fight anybody on playing the role of the husband. Not one time did I have to fight any of the other neighborhood girls on playing the role of the husband. I'm like, I call it, and they're like, okay. You know what I mean? I never pictured myself coming home to a man and kissing him and doing all these things. I pictured myself coming home to a beautiful woman and kissing her and saying, how was your day?
Yeah.
At a very young age, I knew that.
Welcome to Couples Unfiltered, the podcast where we discuss love, loss, relationships, and the journey. I'm Lionel Salisbury.
I'm Natalie Galley-Salisbury.
Now, if this is your first time tuning in to Couples Unfiltered, let me tell you, we got a lot in store for you. Natalie and I have lived a lot of life. We've been married to other people, and we met each other at probably the hardest time of our lives. That's why we're here to try to share some cheat codes with you all.
Yeah, we've had a lot of discussions with a lot of couples, and they have great stories, and they also have some cheat codes, and we interview them, and we want to share their stories along with our stories with you guys. So, just a reminder, we are not licensed therapists, and anything we discuss here is solely based on our experience and our opinions.
Now, before we begin, I want to remind everyone that sometimes in life comes at you. Life, like the kids say, life is lifing. It sounds weird. But sometimes life tries to beat you down. For the couple that we're talking to today, even though life tried to bring some beats their way, they took those beats and created a beautiful soundtrack with their merger together. Please welcome to Couples Unfiltered, Ashley and Danee.
How's it going?
Going good.
We're so excited that you guys are here.
Absolutely.
Very excited to be here.
Absolutely.
So we actually know them from living in the most wonderful neighborhood that we live in.
It is the best.
And we actually met a lot of our couples in our neighborhood, but you guys are super special, and we've spent 7 hours with you prior to this one day, having a full-on conversation, just really getting to know each other, and your story is amazing, and we just want to share it with everybody. So,
awesome. Looking forward to it.
Well, let's get started. Danee, I would like to start with you and tell us who you are and what's the dynamic of you growing up.
Oh man. So I come from a divorced family, a blended family. My biological parents divorced when I was about 2, and it was just me and my dad and my brother for a little while with the help of some family members. And then my dad ended up remarrying when I was 3. My brother was 5, to a woman who already had a daughter of her own who was 7. And it was like that picture perfect instant family, right? Somewhere along the way, it did end up kind of turning toxic and tumultuous in that family dynamic. There was a lot of discrepancies of how my stepmom treated her daughter versus me and my brother. My dad worked a lot and was the sole provider of the family, which led him into alcoholism, which eventually turned him to kind of, unfortunately, be a bit abusive and stuff like that. But us 3 older kids got along great. It was perfect in our eyes until, all the other stuff came into view. But I don't regret any of those early years. I did love us becoming that family dynamic and stuff until, the alcoholism took over with my dad and stuff. But
and where'd you grow up?
I grew up I was born and raised in Santa Rosa
Okay.
up until about the age of 7 or 8. And then we made a move to a very small town in Northern California called Susanville, where my dad ended up getting into the corrections facility, being a correctional officer and stuff, which I think had a lot to do with
Stress.
stress.
I'm sure.
Might lead
And
anybody to
turning
drink.
to alcohol, right? Which is understandable. I can't even imagine what the people in that line of work have to experience and go through.
Have you seen The Mayor of Kingstown?
Okay.
That show is scare anybody from working in that.
Exactly. Yeah, he is, always was a good man, but alcohol definitely made a negative effect on his life and stuff. Later on, my parents ended up having my little brother, and I was about 9 when he was born. And that baby was mine. I don't care what anybody says, that baby was mine. I wanted to dress him. I wanted to feed him. I wanted to give him baths. Like, he was my real life size baby doll that I got to take care of. Poor kid. Poor kid.
Now, you say your parents, so do you refer to your stepmom and your dad as your parents?
I do. I think early on it was, I don't know, I don't want to say forced into calling her mom. I definitely remember a moment where when I was visiting my biological mother, that I had referred to my stepmom as mom. And that really hurt her feelings. I could see it on her face. And she said, "You can call her mom, I suppose, but I will always be your mommy." And I vividly remember that conversation. But, my mom was struggling with addiction. She was young. She was not fully ready to be a parent, I think. And I didn't get to see her as much as I would have liked to. But the moments that I did get with her were everything to me.
Yeah.
Everything.
That's usually how it goes when you don't see the one parent. They're put on a pedestal.
Absolutely.
And no matter what anybody says,
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Ashley, let me ask you. Tell me a bit about your upbringing and how you came to where you are now.
All right. So I am from a small town. I'm a small town girl. Raised on a dairy farm, middle of nowhere, Central Valley, California. Household of 5 females. My twin sister, my older sister, my grandmother, and my mother. Hardworking women. My mom and my grandma pretty much raised us in the household. Definitely gave us an example. They were role models in work ethic. While they were doing what they had to do to support us, the supervision side of everything, it wasn't always at the forefront just because it couldn't be.
Right.
My mom was 19 when she had all 3 of us. I can't even imagine. I'm pushing 40 and I can't even imagine having 3 kids right now,
No.
But I praise her for that now.
Yeah.
It was a tough life, but I wouldn't have known it back then. I never felt it. I never felt that we didn't come from wealth.
Yeah.
We always had that support system. We always had a roof on our heads. We always had food on the table. So definitely will always carry that with me. It's carried into who I am now. We were athletes. We always kept busy. We were academic, top of everything. Wanted to be the best at everything we did. So it was a great childhood. There was eventually, addiction, solitude from having to be alone in the household as a teenager. You can imagine what that
Freedom.
As a, yeah, as a 13-year-old with no structure.
Yeah.
Irresponsible
All the
freedom.
parties,
Yes,
everything,
I like
we
that.
got it out early.
Was that
know.
latchkey? Were we?
Latchkey? I don't know. That's
yeah.
kind of old
Turnkey
term.
kids.
Yeah,
but
turnkey.
Turnkey
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we figured out life really early because it was my twin sister, my older sister, who's only a year older than us, figuring it out together.
Yeah. Pretending to be grown-ups too, I'm sure.
Yeah,
At
and
that age.
also not hating or feeling resentment towards my grandmother and my mom who had to work to support us. You know, we were trying our best, even as 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, to be able to accept that and appreciate it. But we didn't know how.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So my upbringing, you know, it was decent.
Yeah. Especially if you don't have
for it. Yeah.
if you don't have like a lot to compare it to, right? It's like
Yeah.
everybody in your town is kind of doing similar things, and when you don't know, you're
Small
missing
town
out.
life.
It's later in life, it kind of affects you. You're like, why did I not have this, or why do I feel this way?
I'm grateful for it now.
Yeah.
Though. I felt, why didn't I have this for a long time? Because you go into your 20s and you're like, your friends are going back home for holidays, and you're like, I'll stay here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We don't do that, and we're working on those days.
No.
But you know, I guess in turn, you end up being grateful for
Yeah, you do.
what you had with them, you know, and the work ethic they've instilled in you. And
Yeah, it really builds
the
your
drive.
character.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I know you said you have a twin sister. So were you and your twin sister kind of like at the hip throughout your younger years?
Yeah.
Were you guys similar, or?
We still are. We still are, yes. My twin and I have fortunately had a really good relationship growing up, even to today. She's a huge part of my life. My nieces, who her and my brother-in-law have now, also, like, they're my family.
Yeah.
You know, my older sister and I work as close as we can be in our individual distant lives. We're distant by nature, just because that's how we grew up. You
Okay,
know,
yeah.
supporting yourselves and having to just learn how to make it,
Yeah.
survive.
Well, she's the oldest too, so you know.
Yeah.
She's in charge.
Yeah, we're close, and we've always supported each other, and I don't think that'll ever go away.
Yeah. No, that's great.
Well, before we get any deeper into the conversation, which I know it's revving up, let's take a moment to pause and say thank you to our sponsor, BetterHelp. Is something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? Regardless if you have a clinical mental health issue like depression or anxiety, or if you're just a human who lives in a world who's going through a hard time, therapy can give you tools to approach your life in a very different way. And this is why we're excited to tell you about our sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy more affordable and more accessible. And this is an important mission because finding a therapist can be really hard, especially when you're limited to the options in your area. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding therapy easier because it's online, it's remote, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist in as little as a few days. It's easy to sign up and get matched with a therapist. There's a link in the description. It's betterhelp.com/couples unfiltered. Clicking that link helps support this channel, but it also gets 10% off your first month of BetterHelp, so you can connect with a therapist and see if it helps you. And because finding a therapist is a little like dating, if you don't really fit with that therapist, which is a common thing, you can easily switch to a new therapist at no additional cost without stressing about insurance, who's in your network, or anything like that. When I lost my first wife to a terminal illness, therapy helped me navigate my feelings, as well as help me communicate with my children about losing their mother. Click the link in the description or visit betterhelp.com/couples unfiltered. That's better, HELP.com/couples Couples Unfiltered. Thank you again, BetterHelp, for supporting this channel.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Along the way, when you were having a kind of intermittent relationship with your mom, was your stepmom, was she kind of, or anybody in the family, were they kind of feeding you information about who your mom was? Or were you only viewing who your mom was based on your interaction with your mom alone? Like, did it affect you if you had a different, view?
Yeah, so as I was saying earlier, my mom was young, struggled with addiction. When I was about 9, she got clean. And then a few months later, unfortunately, passed away in a car accident as she was trying to move to Sacramento to be closer to my brother and I. So that's something that has always kind of tugged at me, especially as a child, knowing like, man, I've just tried to have this relationship with you. And then as soon as that negativity in your life went away, your life was cut short. She passed away at 31. And after that, in my household, she was very much kind of a taboo topic. She wasn't discussed very often. And when she was, unfortunately, she was cast in like a negative light.
Okay.
And fortunately, I had my grandma.
Yeah.
Who did keep her memory and her spirit alive for me and my brother, telling us memories and stories of who she was and what she did, and showing us videos. Just hearing her laugh in a video was monumental to me.
Yeah.
It meant everything.
I can imagine at
felt
9.
like I was closer to
Jeez.
her as a person. Like I was able to know her deeper just by hearing her laugh in a video.
Right.
Outside of my grandma, not too much. I actually did end up kind of in my 20s almost becoming hyper obsessed with it. Setting out on my own journey to find these clues, to try to piece together this puzzle for myself of her, talking to this family member and this family member, and looking back at things that she wrote and said, and trying to create this picture for myself of who she was.
Yeah.
Because the negative light that she was cast in, I didn't believe to be true of that's just who she is as a person.
Right.
Addiction is not who you are as a person. There's way more to you. There's personality, there's depth, there's character, everything. So sometimes when I was digging, I thought to myself, am I digging too deep? Because there were things that would come up that weren't the greatest or the happiest and stuff. So to be honest, I feel like it's still something that I struggle with today, trying to piece together who she was as a person.
Yeah.
And now that my grandma unfortunately has passed away, I don't have that resource. But
So at what point did you start to kind of, I mean, you sound like a super mature 9-year-old. like I'm like thinking what I was doing at 9, I'm
forced
sure.
mature.
Right. I can't even remember that, but I think of like my children at the age of 9, what they were doing. But to think that, I'm sure that there was some divide between your family because you had, a dynamic that was inside the house, and then you had your grandmother and then your mom and the dynamic outside of that. Was there a point in your life where you started to kind of get out of that box of that family box?
My household family box, to be honest, I don't know if I was ever fully 100% in. I think I disassociated myself away from a lot of it. My mom has just always been topic that's hard for me.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Well, how did your life to traject after that? Like, did you were still in school, obviously, and you're
Yes.
having friends, and was there a point where you kind of started rebelling,
oh,
or?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I kind of gave up academically. I can remember the first time I went back to school after being gone for the funeral. And, you know, the teacher putting the packet in front of me saying, all right, this is what we're working on. And I just kind of left mentally. And unfortunately, it continued for a while. I used to get wonderful grades, like straight A's. I was on, you know, the honor roll and stuff always. And then after the funeral, I wasn't, and my grades were declining and my social life was declining, and I just felt myself shutting down. And the family dynamics of, well, we can't talk about her because it's going to cause an argument, or insecurities within my stepmom because I feel like there was like a lot of jealousy behind all of that.
Like your mom was still getting the attention?
Right.
It's so unfortunate
So
because
I just shut down from it.
that was the time when everybody needed to talk.
Right.
You needed to get that out, regardless of what way it comes out. It can come out in anger, it can come out in laughter. It had to come out, and that fire was extinguished, and it shouldn't have been.
Yeah, that was an opportunity. I mean, I know maybe back then therapy wasn't such a accessible thing.
It was not.
And then we relied on each other, right, to have these conversations about feelings.
Yeah.
But then I'm assuming that at your age, you probably only relied on friends to have conversations with.
I wouldn't even talk to my friends about it. Because of the family dynamics of her being a taboo topic, it became a very closed off subject with me. If my friends even asked, like, oh, will you talk about your dad and your stepmom, but you don't say anything about your mom, like, where is she? What is she doing? I would actually get angry and lash out at them and say, don't talk about her.
Oh, okay.
And not say anything and just shut down. I tried multiple times to go to my older brother, who you would think, being the only person in the entire world that knows what I'm going through, would be able to talk about that. And he kind of totally shut down in his own way. I'd be like, oh, do you remember this? Or do you think this? And he's like, I'm not talking about that.
Wow.
So did you get any assistance from your dad outside of him saying, don't talk about it? What kind of, where was he at in all of this?
I think he was struggling himself with
the alcoholism
loss. Which I think ended up becoming a fueling fire for his alcoholism, to be honest. It really took a dark turn after my mom passed away. He would only talk to me briefly about her if we were in the car riding by ourselves. It could never happen in front of my stepmom. Because it would cause a fight.
You know, in our last episode, we were talking about this, and we were talking about how important it is as husband and wife to talk about the loss with each other, and how it is for us to talk about it with our children. It's important that the person that we lose is a part of the fabric of that relationship, whichever relationship it is. It has to be addressed.
Right.
And it's important.
I do understand, though, how your dad may have felt in the sense where when you're in the car alone, because I catch myself doing that too.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I feel like I'm hiding this conversation.
Right.
And I'm not, because I can talk about him in front of Lionel, no problem. But when I'm with my son in the car, sometimes I'll ask him questions if he remembers, or remember a memory and stuff. And I feel like, why am I only asking him when we're by ourselves? It's like a natural instinct to maybe give him a safe space in case he feels like he doesn't have one and he can't verbalize that. And I would assume he doesn't have that problem, but how do I know, right? So I'll give him that safe space to talk to just me. And it's more for him than it's for me. But when you're emotionally immature, you don't know what to do sometimes. You just do what feels right. You know, I have this picture of your dad being like, so, you remember that time your mom did this? You know, just kind of like sucking it up and not being emotional. You know, where I'm just like, hey, if you want to talk, a little softer.
And I remember the first time I was 10 years old and I was headed to a friend's birthday party. And my dad, it was an overnight birthday party, and my dad was driving me to my friend's house. And it was quiet. It was a quiet ride. And then suddenly my dad turned to me and said, do you happen to know what today is? And I said, Thursday? I don't know. Like, what do you know? And he said, this is the day that your mom passed away. It's been 1 year. And I had never seen him be vulnerable like that and open about the topic of her. And, he said, did you know that today was the day she passed away? And I said, I have no idea. And I broke down in the car crying on the way to my birthday.
Thanks for telling me.
The one time you want to be open and vulnerable. We had a couple moments after that, but other than that, taboo topic for sure.
Well, let me ask, because you bring up a great point of having those moments.
Yeah.
Did those moments help you when you decided that, okay, I need to tell somebody about my sexuality? Was those moments with Dad, him kind of opening himself up to you, did that allow you an opportunity to be vulnerable with him?
No.
I was hoping. I was like, hey, come on right away.
So at what age did you figure out that you weren't like the girls around you?
Oh man, I always knew.
Yeah.
I always knew. Kids played house, right? I never had to fight anybody on playing the role of the husband. Not one time did I have to fight any of the other neighborhood girls on playing the role of the husband. I'm like, I call it, and they're like, okay. You know what I mean? I never pictured myself coming home to a man and kissing him and doing all these things. I pictured myself coming home to a beautiful woman and kissing her and saying, how was your day?
Yeah, yeah.
At a very young age, I knew that.
Do you think your family knew that?
My stepmom swears up and down that she knew since I was 4 years old.
Oh. Did she say how?
I would apparently... So for whatever reason, because I did not like my hair done, I had a very tender head, so they gave me a bowl haircut, which is not nice in itself.
Oh, yeah.
For anybody, right? I would like comb it over, and I would go put on whatever clothes I thought were nice, and I tried to go ask out the neighbor girl.
Oh.
And her mom brought me home real quick and was like, your daughter. So my stepmom said she knew from that moment. But yeah, I've always had a feeling within myself that I am different than the other girls that I hang out with.
Yeah.
And coming from a very religious family and upbringing, that was a huge struggle for me.
Oh, wow. So you were raised, what was your religious
Christian Baptist.
Oh, gosh. That's like a running theme in our podcast.
Yes, it is.
That was rough.
I mean, I don't mean, oh gosh, like in a bad way, but like, in the way that sometimes that they're raised to believe, that what the Bible says about being gay.
Right.
And it's not good.
No, it is not.
But speaking of coming home to a beautiful woman,
how
did you guys meet?
Do you want to tell the story?
There's two sides of the story.
There's always two sides to the story.
Right? You were just minding your own business, right?
Minding my own business, visiting my grandmother in my hometown.
Sound like Little Red Riding Hood.
Exactly. I was working at a grocery store.
I'm so sorry.
That was for you, babe.
I was working at a grocery store, put myself through school at the time. And suddenly this beautiful creature walked through the doors and my jaw dropped and I was like drooling on myself. Just kind of like creeping around the store, trying to follow her, pointing her out to other people. She walked up to the line that I was at. Well, okay, first of all, I pushed the bagger out of the way to get in that line and said, "This is mine, bye." And
I got this.
come to find out, I knew her older sister, Iris.
Oh,
Yeah.
small town.
Very small town. Very small town. A few months later, I ended up actually taking a position in a company and working for her twin sister. Which was fate in itself, right? Like, I knew the older one, now I got this one, now I'm after you. But yeah, she showed up at a hotel. We were getting ready to go out for a friend's birthday, and she knocked on the door, and I opened. I went in for an awkward handshake as she was coming in for a hug, and I was like,
Yeah.
Okay. And then we just kind of, she got transferred into my office as my office manager. So I secretly started dating the boss. Yeah, we started hanging out, and it just quickly turned into a wildfire kind of love.
Yeah. Wow. So would you say that you were growing up knowing that you were into the female persuasion, or?
You know, I grew up so much to myself. I worked. It was my world that I had to live in. I had to do things. I didn't have time in my life, even through college years, the 17 different colleges I've been to and everything I've been. Not 17.
Oh, okay.
Exaggerating. 3 different colleges. But I kept myself so busy that judgment or identity or labels, anything like that, it was in the back seat. I never thought about it.
Did you have boyfriends growing up?
I did have boyfriends, yes, plenty of them.
How about you? Did you ever have a boyfriend?
Hold up. Let's back. No.
Let's count.
17?
Too many.
17 was at college.
I know, right? I did have one boyfriend. He was a cover boyfriend in high school because of the whole religious upbringing and stuff. I'm like, people keep asking me, I got to get something.
Yeah.
So I did have one boyfriend in high school who was my cover boyfriend. He was a safe bet. He was very religious as well. And so I knew I didn't really have anything to worry about. There were going to be no pressures or expectations on me as a girlfriend to kind of get intimate or anything like that. So he was just my safe bet. I unfortunately did end up breaking his heart when I did get to the point of realizing who I was, who I wanted to be, and I didn't care anymore. So I did sit down and have that conversation with him, and it did break his heart, but I think he understood, and we've still been able to maintain a civil friendship relationship.
That's good.
Ashley, did you grow up religious at all?
No, I wasn't raised in the church or with religion in general. I was more so like, go play sports, do good at school.
Okay, yeah.
I had faith. We would go with our friends. Our friends would take us to church, and I loved it. I loved the music side of it, that music aspect. And I just enjoyed the energy. I'm an energy person. I don't talk a lot. I'm an introvert, but I can vibe with energy. I feel it.
Yeah.
And people in the church that I had gone to at that point, at a young age, I enjoyed it. I liked being around it. So I went and I listened. I absorbed the information, and I appreciate their faith. And it was a nice light time in my life.
Of course.
Something different.
Positive
But
energy.
did I
is
know
always-
what it was? Not necessarily.
Yeah. So, I'm just curious. Are you guys? Has there been a point in your relationship where you've sought religion together, like to kind of create?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we did attempt to go to a church in San Marcos where we live, and I was just trying to desperately reconnect with my own faith. And unfortunately, when I reached out to the pastor's wife and explained, this is my previous faith, this is how I'm feeling, this is who I am. I'm just trying to find a common ground within all of that to build my own faith and establish my own relationship with God. Unfortunately, I was told, I'm sorry, I can't tell you what you want to hear. Which to me was just another form of rejection within the church that I had always felt in my childhood.
Right.
It's like, why can't I be who I am and still have a relationship with God when I was told that He loves me no matter what? So why can't all of His followers do the same thing?
Yeah.
There was something that we heard some time ago, which explained and allowed us to understand better about the church and religion. Church is a tune-up. God is the destination. The people are the guides, the keepers of the map. So they're not supposed to be judging you.
Right.
They're supposed to just say, all right, listen, here is the map. Here is how you get to God.
Right.
And that's what should be happening. And it's unfortunate that people who are God-fearing, completely loving, unconditional, that happened.
Right.
Yeah,
It
they
shouldn't
let
be
you
that
down.
way.
They let you down.
God is love. In my opinion, God is love.
Absolutely.
And you should always feel loved.
Right.
So whatever that church was and whoever that person
Not going
was,
back there.
they need to maybe tighten up a little bit.
Exactly.
So,
Right. Especially if just kind of leave you out to dry with, we
Yeah.
can't help you here.
yeah.
Exactly. It was like, oh, sorry, can't tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah.
Awkward silence.
But do you still feel faithful that you have a relationship with God?
I absolutely believe
Yeah.
in God, and I know that God believes in me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know that He has plans for me in my life outside of the church. I can still have a relationship with Him, and that's something that to this day I am still trying to navigate and build for myself.
Yeah.
I think we all are. I
Yeah.
don't think you're alone in that.
No, not at all.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, as we get older, it
Oh,
just
yeah.
gets more challenging when,
Yeah.
things start appearing in your life and it makes you feel bad for feeling the way you did 5 years ago, and you start having experiences that just change you.
Yeah.
Everybody wants some beacon of hope or light in their life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So to build that for yourself, I think is better than building it off of a certain based religion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Find it for yourself.
Exactly.
We have our own communities, and I think there's people who need a community and they need the church to guide them. And then there's people who, have gotten where they are through religious means, but can kind of navigate their own relationship with God just fine.
Absolutely.
Well, speaking to your point about building
Yeah.
and elevating, you're off to a new venture in your life, building something very substantial.
Yep.
Please tell us about this new chapter in your life.
A new chapter.
Well, and I mean, from what you were saying, growing up in the church, you had, playing instruments. You had that in you for.
Did. I never played an instrument. Oh, actually, I played the saxophone in sixth grade, but I always had this passion, connection, not a passion yet, but always a connection with music. I can recall, like in kindergarten, hearing the steel drum and just feeling it. And as someone growing up with not, no structure, no affection, really, we didn't have people around to show us the affection. They were working to get food on the table.
Yeah, no nurturing.
So that's where I felt my connection with emotion from early on, I went to a church actually to watch a Beethoven symphony of some sort with my grandmother. And that was the next time in my life where I felt emotion. I was like, wait, what is this feeling in my chest?
Oh, wow.
So it was later on in life where I actually dug in to what that is like after searching so many other different ways for like connection in general. Music is where I found that. So yeah, I'm pursuing it now. So passionate about it, and I can say that now because I know I'm a musician at heart. And I'm just working really hard at what I love and who I've become. It's really most of me is music.
It's her music all through. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm not me without it.
Right. Well, it's interesting because like I mean, I'm not going to lie and say that you don't look the part because you know you do, but the type of music that you play and you're in a band, but the type of music that you play, I guess I've seen it called like a mixed genre of like hard rock and metal.
It's metal. Yeah.
Okay, it's
there's
metal.
Some screaming. There's some hard.
Yeah, there is some screaming. I actually have a 22-year-old daughter who, when we drove up north, my son was in the back seat, and she's like, "Can I play some music?" And I'm like thinking, okay, she's gonna play some of her little gamer music that she listens to. I call it gamer music because that's what this sounds like when they're playing games in the background. And she starts playing this music, and I'm like, "Oh my God, what is that? That sounds really familiar." And I go, "Hey, wait. Let me play this for you." And I played your album that I had on my phone, and she was like, "Oh my God, this is really good." And she's like, "Who are they?" And I'm like, this is our neighbors." And she's like, "What?" And she starts Googling you guys. She's like, "They're like really big." And I'm like, "Oh," and she started having like all this respect for me. She's like, "You just had this in your phone?" I'm like, "Yeah, I just had this in my phone. I listen to this."
My weekend music. What are you talking about?
My weekend music. I cook to this. Well, I don't cook anymore, but yeah.
So what's the name of the group and upcoming album?
Fortunately, Beyond Unbroken is the name of the band that I play in now. The Money Brothers. I work with them. This is their band. I'm so grateful to have been given the opportunity to work with them. They're great human beings. Love it. I just, finally found a group of people along with our drummer that I can connect with. I feel like this is right. These people are strange and they're silent like me, but we play good music.
Yeah. Now, what instrument do you play?
I play bass.
Okay.
And I backup vocals for this band as well.
Do you write?
I write a lot, yeah. With the band, I play bass and I do backup vocals. But the way I transitioned or got into music in general is because I write. I needed an outlet. I needed a way to express myself. I've always felt distant, just because of the way I grew up. I was brought up. I was on my own most of the time, supporting myself. And it's hard to connect with people at my age, 17, 18, 19, when I was just doing things by myself.
Yeah.
Working my way through life. Literally working. It was hard to connect.
Yeah.
So I wrote a lot, and I was on the East Coast. One of my roommates I had found on Craigslist. I had multiple roommates that I just found randomly, but they were a musician as well, and they recorded music, and I learned kind of the process there. I got to witness it. I picked up a guitar in like 2010. This was later on in life. I was older. I was 20s, mid-20s. And I finally started putting what I was writing on paper into music, just a chord here and there. And I felt free,
Yeah.
And from then on, I didn't want to give it up. I was timid, fearful. I found my way to be in the industry, but not actually doing music for years. It wasn't till this last 2 years, I would say, right? In 2 years.
But you're also working on your own stuff now too.
Well, it took years to get into that. It was maybe about 2 years ago where I started investing in myself. You know?
That's good.
I took on all the other people and all the.
Now,
So-
how do you-
Go ahead.
How do you guys navigate through
Yeah.
the music? We're both from musical backgrounds.
Yeah.
Sometimes
We did.
Lionel. Well, I mean,
It's
I've
good
been,
too.
I've been in a,
It really is.
I've been in a relationship with someone who was in the music business. My late husband was in the music business, and that was for me. His passion for that sometimes became a problem, and it's something because it's something I don't understand. And I mean, it's not that I don't understand music, but as far as someone having a passion, so the priority of that passion being somewhat kind of neck and neck with me, or even before me sometimes, was difficult. And that was that held a lot of contention in our relationship, at the peak where he was doing that. And I remember when I met him, and one of the first things he told me about was doing an album and, having this passion for music. And I was like, are you done with that? Like, because I'm done with that, So not to put a negative light on it, but how do you guys navigate through your relationship with that being such a big thing in her life?
Yeah, I think we're still trying to slowly work through that and navigate of what it looks like of her chasing music while being married and still holding that level of marriage in general. We can be in the car and I'm like talking, I'm like, oh my God, this is happening. This was great, blah, blah, blah. And then I stop and it's like dead silence. I'm like, did you hear anything I said? And she's like, what? Sorry, I was writing lyrics in my head. What'd you say? And I'm like, that's okay. I can repeat it. That's fine. That's fine.
So you're the emotional one in the
Oh
relationship.
my gosh, yes. I'm absolutely the emotional one.
Yeah, I'm
Absolutely.
a walking rom-com.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
not afraid to admit that.
I am the same exact way. I'm the same exact way. So feeling all the feelings that I have and stuff like that versus, music and being a musician, it's all consuming. It's almost like nothing else exists.
Right.
And for me, with my certain level of deep-seated trust issues and abandonment issues and stuff like that, that definitely comes into play. That is something we are still trying to navigate and work through and find balance of.
Right.
Of like, I want to be there as your partner and support you in everything you do and love and you're passionate about. But also like, what about me a little bit? So it's ever changing.
Yeah. I think it's hard though, because I feel your personality in the relationship a little. And, when we're in the zone, there's this thing about being focused that is, it becomes a priority in the moment. And really, unless somebody's dying, you need to wait.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And he does that. Sometimes I'm like on the computer writing something for this or something else, and he's trying to talk to me about his day, and I'm just like, do you not see that I can't listen to you right now? Like, I'm just like, stop talking to me, but I don't say that. But in my mind, I'm like, how do
I'm learning the body.
He's a
Read the room.
multitasker. He can do the emotions and the conversations and the thinking and do all of it. And I can't. I just can't. If I'm focused on something, I'm passionate about that thing right now. Right. I mean, it's not on any level of music passion. That's like a whole, I feel like music and any kind of creativity type of line of passion is in a subject by itself, But I feel your not pain, but I understand where you're coming from with that, and I understand where you are too, because know, obviously. But
and I have likes and hobbies of my own, right? But I guess it's not as deep seated as her.
Right.
her love for music.
Well, speaking of her love,
Yeah.
tell me what's the one thing or the most important thing that you love about your wife?
That's rated R.
That's a different show. That is a different show.
Her personality, her energy. She's personable. People love her. People are drawn to her. And, that makes up for my lack of.
She's all the things
She
that you
covers
can't be.
No, she's great with my nieces. She's just full of love. And I don't know how to be that. So for someone that's like overflowing with love, we find balance that way, to be honest.
Yeah.
Right?
It's pretty amazing to think that you're describing her that way when what you've explained to us growing up was really you had every opportunity to not be that way.
Yeah. I probably should have not been that way.
Yeah. But I think that's God.
I absolutely do too.
That's God having your back,
Exactly.
being in your life.
Exactly.
He's always had my back.
And she's
His
my
love
best friend.
flows through
My
me.
best friend.
Yeah.
I look forward to hanging out with her. She
That's
doesn't
very
leave,
important.
Like that often. She just went to visit her sister in Colorado for a few days, and I missed her.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah.
I like missing my wife.
Oh,
And you guys have been married for 3 years, right?
Yeah.
3 years now.
Yeah. What do you like most about her?
Oh man, where do I begin? No, honestly, her love and passion and commitment and dedication to her, I don't want to say dream, but the music. I know she doesn't like that. Her music it's very inspiring. I don't have, again, something like that I am so just deeply obsessed about that nothing else matters in the world. And I do find that very inspiring within her, that it doesn't matter. This is something that I want, and I'm going for it.
Yeah.
Outside of that, people may get the vibe off of this episode that she's not super vulnerable. She's not very open and vulnerable, and shows that softer side to anybody, really. So for me to be able to be one of the very few, maybe just me and her twin sister, if anybody, to be able to see that side of her, it does make me feel special.
Yeah, man, that's a gift.
Just with my gifts all the time.
Just him. Well, obviously not, because we're doing a podcast. So everybody's got that gift, so I guess you're not so special anymore, man.
Still special.
Okay, yeah.
You are special. You're very special.
Well, I want to give you an opportunity because it's something that we feel is really important. That we have an opportunity to kind of talk about something that I feel like is important to me because I keep screwing it up. But right now, there's a culture of people who have different identities. Yeah. And I have a daughter who is constantly correcting me because I don't know how to address people. And when one of the first things we talked about, when you guys came over that day and we had the 7-hour conversation, I think I asked you, do you want to be addressed as a lesbian couple? And when I said it, it felt funny because I don't hear that anymore. But I realized there's so many identities, right?
Yeah.
And so now I'm one of those people who gets confused, but I don't try anymore. I kind of label it as, but I say, I've been told all my life that red is red, right? And now I have to look at red and say it's purple. But not do I just have to see purple, I have to say purple. And it's really difficult for me to say, so everybody, it should be just they. But I don't want to just do it because I feel like that's the rule. I don't know how you guys, how do you address yourselves? Like, I mean, what do you ask, what do you say? What do you write? What do you do?
Right. So I guess we try not to put too much emphasis on the outside of the norm, right? She is my wife. I am her wife. We both still go by she, her pronouns. But I understand where you're coming from. It is confusing. Today's norm or whatever isn't necessarily going to be tomorrow's. This is an ever evolving situation, right? Just much like everything else in the world. I have the utmost respect for the older community that fought very hard for us to even have the love that we have and be able to have the right to be out and be married. But I also have, the respect for the younger community who is paving their own path.
Right.
They don't necessarily want to be put in any one box, which is great. Again, ever evolving. I don't fully comprehend it myself because maybe I'm leaning more towards the older community than the younger community now at my age. But I can still have the level of respect for them to be open to what makes them feel comfortable. I'm not always going to get it right. I'm going to mess up. I'm going to stumble. But I can turn around and apologize and be open to the way that they are wanting to present themselves to the world. And I'll do better next time. I promise I'll do better next time. Just correct me. That's fine.
And I think that's the message is, not so much to get other people to accept what everyone is doing and what they want to be identified as, but also for the people who want to be identified as something to accept that it's going to take time for us to get there.
Yeah.
And even if we say they, or we stumble, or we stutter, to just understand that the effort is being made to respect you.
Yes.
And it's just a very difficult process for you to have been all of your life saying something, anything, one way, and to change it is just really hard. It's like learning a new language.
Oh,
but only
absolutely.
sometimes.
Absolutely. And we are all so completely different.
Yeah.
Which is what makes us so beautiful as a species. We as humans just need to be open to the differences and be open-minded to how they are wanting to present. Everybody has the right to act, say, do, express themselves any way they want.
Yeah, this is America.
Us as fellow humans just need to be accepting of that and let them do what we can on our part to make them feel as comfortable as possible.
Right.
Just a mutual respect for each other. It doesn't matter who you love, where you came from, what your accent is, what you look like. We just all need to be accepting of each other. And I feel like that's just what it should be the most important.
That's like the definition of love.
Exactly.
It is.
Love is blind.
Yeah.
Love is blind.
Have you seen that show?
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
talk. We'll talk.
Okay.
So as we come to a close, there's a question that we like to ask all of our couples. First off, when you got married, did you say the traditional vows or did you write your own vows? And is there something in those vows that you would change after 3 years of marriage? Or add?
Yeah, that day was a blur. We did write our own vows. Fortunately, we have a video that we watch every year on our anniversary to remind ourselves of it.
Love it.
I don't necessarily think there's anything that I would change about it. I just, the closing statement was, it won't always be rainbows and butterflies, but I hope you're ready for a wild ride, and I stand by that.
Nice. Love it.
I also wrote my own vows, nothing traditional about them. It wasn't words that I looked up in hopes that it would sound good. It definitely all came absolutely from my heart. There's nothing I would change. I just think I would want to just be more conscious about what I promised to her and implement that more daily in our marriage. I don't think there's anything I would change. I would just want to implement it more on a daily basis and keep my promise to her.
Well, I love that you guys review the tape or review the video.
Yes.
I said tape.
You did say tape.
VHS.
We're old.
I forget how old I am sometimes. Yeah, the 8-track. No.
8-track.
Because we challenge our couples. Well, we started to every year on your anniversary to look at your vows and review them and just say, hey, are we living up to the standard?
Right.
Or do we need to throw some extra things in there? Let's talk about what maybe we'd like to add now. But are we even doing this?
Right.
You know, so I think that's great. We're
Yes.
proud of you guys for
Thank
doing
you.
that.
Yes.
Do you guys have a mentor couple?
There are a few couples in our lives that we feel that in times of need we can turn to. Absolutely. One of them, for me especially, is our amazing neighbor, Steve and Maura.
Yeah.
Maura actually officiated our wedding.
Yeah.
So she was very much involved in our marriage. People say the first year is the hardest. And let me tell you, they are not lying. We almost did not make it out of our first year of marriage. And had it not been for the support and guidance of people in our lives like Maura and Steve, we wouldn't be sitting here today. They have played many roles in our lives and our marriage that have just
That's great.
made it better.
Yeah, that's great. Everybody needs a mentor couple.
Everybody does.
Everybody. No matter how old you are.
Exactly.
And how young your marriage is or how old your marriage is.
Along with my sister and her husband, my twin, and John, my brother-in-law, like we've got to witness what it's like to raise children in a marriage and how that shifts the type of love and the type of patience and the kind of dedication. Like, everything changes.
Yeah, that growth is quick.
Right?
Real quick. It is real quick.
Involuntary sometimes.
Yeah, and as much as it looks challenging, I feel like it's strengthening them for the future.
Definitely.
In a way that like we can almost see, but they can't yet. So it's huge for me to watch.
Well, I'm
that.
sure you guys are a mentor couple for them as well because they're watching your growth. And regardless, like I said, of how long you've been married, there's never not a space to learn from other people.
Right.
And to just be able to have someone, that close to you, able to be vulnerable about your marriages, that's a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have that.
Well, we extend that to you all.
And
I hope you all know.
that. Absolutely. That conversation that we had with you guys at your beautiful home.
Moving into our mentor
I know, absolutely. That was actually, it was breathtaking. It was like a fresh breath air.
I like that.
Yes.
Breath of fresh
It's a
air.
fresh breath air.
That's socket rocket.
Yeah,
It works.
It was definitely a breath of fresh air going to your guys'
It was
home.
for us,
and
too.
and
It
speaking
really
with
was.
you. It was
Yeah, genuinely, we've never been around another married couple that have been so open to sharing their story and made us open up. And we actually really look up. We really look up to it, and we're grateful for it.
Yeah.
And
Well, we appreciate you
we're
saying
on
that.
Yeah, we are
'Cause
very
that
grateful for you
literally-
guys.
no joke.
That is literally why we are doing this.
Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
know that you are making an impact on other people, on other marriages in a very positive way.
Thank you.
Because that conversation we
Yeah.
had with you guys was everything, to be honest. It was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you
Well,
so
we look
much for
forward to
that.
having more
to
interactions
a
like
metal
that.
show.
Yeah, maybe
Yes.
not 7 hours. But yeah, we want to plug your stuff.
Yeah.
Because
Plug my stuff away.
yeah.
We'll let you plug.
Yeah, I mean, I have it written
Plug
down, but I
away.
don't want to screw it up. So,
What does that mean?
so your Instagram, you can follow. The band is Beyond Unbroken.
Yes.
And it's at Beyond Unbroken and hashtag Beyond Unbroken. You have an album that you're working on.
I have an EP that I'm working on, a personal EP that's
Okay.
in the early stages where you'll find a lot about who I am,
Okay.
a lot about my story.
Love it.
All right.
But we have an album as a band dropping November 15th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
First album with that band.
I
coming
will
out
link
soon.
all of those things on YouTube and Spotify and all the places that
Yeah,
you
we've
can
been
watch
working hard.
Yeah,
Couples Unfiltered.
And I would like to ask and add, if you would not mind sharing a picture of your mother we would like to put that on the website
That would be amazing.
when we talk this episode.
Thank you
through.
so much. I would love to share a photo.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Yeah.
Well, for everyone out there, we greatly appreciate you spending the time with us, and we're trying to help other couples remain beyond unbroken. So please continue to listen, like, and subscribe. Couples Unfiltered. Thank you again.